Well, good morning, family and friends. How are you guys doing? It is Tuesday. It's 11:30, and you know what we do on Tuesdays at 11:30. We go live with the Word, and I am so very excited about this Word. Now, I told you before, we run down the Bible. That's what we're doing in 2021. We're just running down chapter after chapter after chapter. Well, good morning. I see them hearts. Y'all are up early. Come on, let's get on in this Word, honey. So we're running down each chapter. Hey there, Sean. Each chapter. We started off with the book of Genesis. In Genesis, we found out that we have power. We got dominion over some things. From there, we traveled on to the book of Exodus. In Exodus, we talked about how the people were in Egypt and they were trapped underneath Pharaoh's rulery. That's the word I want to use today, rulery. Don't judge me. They were trapped under the rulery of Pharaoh, and they were able to escape. Numbers, honey, that's the book. It's about census. If you want to remember census, numbers, that's how it goes together. Hey there, Oliver. So Numbers is the book that we were in last week. Now, Numbers, that was the book where the children were there, and they had traveled from out of Egypt and found themselves from the desert now into this place called the wilderness. The wilderness. And this week, we are in Deuteronomy. Now, Deuteronomy is an exciting book. Let me tell you. Deuteronomy is the book that says it's time for you to decide your future. Some of you are in limbo right now, and you're trying to make some decisions. And I want to tell you today is decision-making time. It's time for you to decide your future. It's time for you to decide if you're going to go left or if you're going to go right. That's what the book of Deuteronomy is about. Now, let me tell you how it works, Aaron. So they were in the book of Exodus, right? And Exodus, they journeyed and they found themselves, like I told you, in the wilderness. And Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 6, it says God is speaking. He's talking to Moses, and he begins to recap the people, John. He begins to take them back on this journey that he brought them from. He said in verse number 6, he said, you've dwelt long enough at this mountain. That's a word for somebody right there. You've dwelt long enough in this place, in this space and time. It's time for you to make what? A decision. That's what he said. And he wasn't talking about then. He was talking about, you remember back in Egypt, and I said, you've dwelt here long enough. He took them through and he began to recap the journey. You see, the journey was supposed to just take 11 days. 11 days to go from Egypt to the promised land. But the people, if you remember last week, I told you about it. The people was murmuring, honey. They was complaining. They was griping. They was like, oh, Lord, why did you bring us here? And it took them up until this point 38 years. 38 years. And God begins to remind them that, hey, something that you could have done back then, you can really go on and get it done. It's decision-making time. That's what God is reminding them. If we go a little bit further, we remember in the last book of Numbers, he told them, hey there, Miss Laquana. He said, look, I want you to go up and possess this land. I want you to go ahead and take the inheritance that I have set up for you. And what did the people do? The people went, and the people began to say, no, they were discouraged. And it says in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 26, it says, nevertheless, you wouldn't go up. God is recapping to them. He said, when I told you to go get what was yours, you wouldn't make a decision. You wouldn't go after it. You wouldn't just go and possess it because you said that you were a little bit fearful. You were nervous. Some of us are fearful and nervous. We don't know if it's okay. We don't know if it's the right choice. Baby, make a decision. This is what this book is about. And he's just recapping them, and he's telling them, I don't want you to be terrified. I don't want you to be nervous. I got you, says God. So they keep on. He's just recapping. He's just playing it back in their head, letting them know that, look, now this is where we went all of these years, that we could have got this done in 11 days, Shonda. He's trying to let them know that, but I told you again that you've been here long enough. It says in verse number 46 of chapter 1 in the book of Deuteronomy, for those of y'all that just joined, it says, you remained in Kadesh many days according to the days that you spent there. He said, I told you to go up, but you refused. And you stayed in this area, Johnny, longer than you were supposed to. He said there was an inheritance that you were supposed to take. And I want to ask you a quick question real quick. Is there something that was passed down from your bloodline, from generation to generation to generation, that you weren't sure if you could grab onto it, and God is saying, oh, I like that, time is ticking, it's time to make, Aaron, you on it, you jumped in and you on it, baby. Time is ticking. I'm going to use that, time is ticking. And when you look at generation to generation to generation, you realize it's time to make a decision. Let me tell you how this generational inheritance looks like when you look at, because oftentimes we talk about generation, we think of generational curses. We think of the negative things. Let me tell you how the enemy try to mess up your mind, baby. It's not always negative. When I think about the generation of my granddaddy, hey there, Jasper, my granddaddy, man, granddaddy owned this land, and it was called Brogdon. It was on a road called Brogdon Road. That's my last name. Brogdon Road out in South Carolina, out in the country. Y'all know nothing about that country living is good living, baby. And granddaddy owned this land. And I remember being on that property. And I remember, that's how granddaddy would say it too, property. I remember being on granddaddy's property, and I remember saying, one day this inheritance is not the specific land that he lived on, the specific land that he toiled with his hands, and he built stuff and built gardens and stuff. It wasn't that specific land, but he planted a seed of inheritance that, Tab, if you're willing to make some decisions in life, you too can be a landowner. You too can possess some property if you're willing to do the work. So I made a decision years ago that I too wanted to be, you know about that country living, Jasper. I too wanted to be a landowner. I think about the inheritance that was passed on through my dad. My dad, Ed Brogdon, I talk about him all the time. Now, Dad, he wasn't there at youth, but that's no slight to him, because what I remember is on February the 14th, many years ago, I remember Daddy calling me. I think I was in my 30s, and I know I look like I'm 20. y'all can smile. But what I'm saying is, I remember Daddy calling me in my 30s, and he called me on Valentine's Day. Hadn't talked to him in years, y'all, in years. And Daddy said to me, he said, "I'm sorry. And I want to know if we can reestablish this relationship." And what he was teaching me that I passed on and I snatched in the inheritance is that it's okay for a grown man, if it's all right, for a grown man that is a veteran of the United States Air Force, that is toured from one side of the country to the other, to come back and say, wait a minute, I didn't do something that I wanted to do. I'm sorry. He taught me the inheritance, the gift of apology, of forgiveness, that it's okay to get do-overs. I think about the inheritance that I got from my mommy. Now, mommy was the one. Mommy didn't hold back. She kept her tongue, and her tongue was sharp like a razor, honey. It was sharp like a razor. And when Betty Burns said something, Betty Burns meant it. Let me tell you, child, there was no question mark about it. But can I tell you, the inheritance that mommy gave me, it's just she taught me how to speak my mind. She taught me that you can't just let people treat you any kind of way. And she taught me that you just got to do it in a way that puts a little curve on it. That's that southern gear. That's that southern gear right there. You got to put it on you, honey. That southern curve where your no is no and your yes is actually in the Bible. That's a scripture. Mommy taught me that it's okay to say what you feel. And here we have the children in the book of Deuteronomy. Let me pull you back because it all goes together. I promise you it does. They were murmuring and complaining like their fathers did, like their grandfathers did. They were complaining because here you brought us out to this dry and thirsty land and there's no water, and they were complaining. Well, God says, do you remember when you were there on this journey and I told you, go get your inheritance, go get the good stuff that has been passed down, and you refused? He said, then what I did is I took you by way of the Red Sea. Now, why is the Red Sea important? The Red Sea was another detour that took them 2 more years, which is why it took them 40 years to finally do what? Make a decision. To make a decision. But when you get to chapter 2 in Deuteronomy, baby, hang in there with me. I'm going somewhere. I promise you. It says that God came again. And he said, you've skirted this mountain long enough. What is he saying to them? Baby, make a decision. We've been out here longer than we supposed to, and that's what I came to tell some of you this morning. It's decision-making time. Baby, you have been circling this mountain. You've been in this Red Sea. You've been, should I do this, and should I go left, or should I go right, or do I need to go ahead and make this choice? Baby, make a decision. It's time. It says 40 years. Now, how long is it going to take you to make a decision? That's how long it took the children to make a decision. But he reminded them, he said, look, while you were waiting and trying to figure it out, can I remind you that you lacked nothing, that I took care of you? And the reason I did is because I knew that at one point in time that you would decide that you wanted to do what you knew you needed to do in the first place. He went on, let me take you to chapter 4 real quick. He reminded them in chapter 4, it says Moses was talking to the people. And he says, hey there, Angela. He said, Moses was talking to the people, and he said, now look, this is where we're at now. I need you in chapter 4, verse 1. He said, I'm going to teach you to observe the things that you may live and go in and possess the land which the Lord God of your fathers is giving you. He's telling them one more time, look, I didn't forget about you. This inheritance, this gift, this promise, this thing that you said. What was those scriptures I need, though? I'm going to give them to you, Aaron. Chapter 4 in Deuteronomy. Oh, I love Bible readers. Chapter 4 in Deuteronomy, verse number 1. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. And he reminded them what he said is he's like, look, I'm coming back again. And for some of you, that's the word that you need to hear this morning. God is saying, I'm coming back again. No, you didn't lose it. No, you didn't miss your season. I know you drug your feet. I know that you were trying to decide what was right. But God said, you already know what's right. Let's make a decision. Let's go for it. Trust me that I've got you. He goes on to chapter number 5 in the book of Deuteronomy. Chapter 5 through chapter 6, verse 21, he begins to go over these things called the 10 Commandments. And he goes over the 10 Commandments because he wants them to understand that, look, when you go to get this thing that you've been promised, that you've been told that you were going to get, I don't need you to get here and act any kind of way. You've got to have some structure. You've got to have some standards. You've got to have, I won't do this and I won't do that. I won't compromise. I won't misstep, because you work too hard. You've spent too many years wondering and wishing, and now you finally got to the place where you're ready to make a decision. And God said, I just need you to go in with with a little strategy. That's what he's telling. Go in with a strategy. So he gave the children a strategy that was called the 10 Commandments. But then when we get to chapter number 6 in the book of Deuteronomy, this is where I got really excited. He said, now it comes down to this heart thing. It comes down to this heart thing. He tells them in chapter 6, verse number, let me get to it, y'all. I'm getting so excited. Verse number 4, chapter 6, verse 4. He said, all of these commandments, I know, because remember, he knows us, just like in Leviticus. I told y'all to be holy because I was holy, and some of y'all can't do that. He's like, I know these 10 commandments may be hard to keep. So let me give you the greatest commandment. He comes in chapter number 6, and he said, the greatest commandment is that you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your strength. What is he saying there? He's like, I need you to want it so bad that you say, God, I don't want it without you. I need you to say, God, I'm going into this thing and I'm taking you with me. I'm going into this thing, Jesse, and I need you to be with me step by step. I'm going to make a decision today. And God, I need you to be with me when I make this decision. Do you know how it feels to live a life where you say, God, and remember last week we did our little song, when I move, you move just like that. Do you know how it feels when you make a decision and God says, go right? And just move right with them? Or if God says go left, you just move. If God says possess it, take it. It's your time. It's your season that you're on one accord. You're not doubting. You're not murmuring. You're not second guessing. You're not saying, well, God, maybe I don't. And God, but I check my account. And God, look at my circumstances. I'm looking at everything. No saying, God said do it, so I'm going to do it. Baby, today what am I telling you is make a decision time. Let me tell you how this book goes in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy takes us from chapters 7 through 28, and God shows them when they finally get in their mind that they're going to make a decision, how they begin to prosper. It says that they have healthy living. It says that they begin to live a life that's full with joy and expectancy, because God is showing them a reward of taking possession of the things that he says that you can have. Some of you are in a place and God says it's yours. Just go get it. That's your job. That's your mate. That's your money. That's your new career. That's your new business that you're getting ready to own. That's your house that's over there on that corner in that side of town that you've been looking at. God is saying it's your time. Shonda, I'm trying to help you out, sis. He said, make a decision. No more dragging your feet. No more wondering. But you got to take this time. You got to take this time to remember what you came back from. You got to remember, let me give you an example. Chapter 28 takes us through to chapter 30. And in chapter 30 of Deuteronomy, it's where they have to make this decision between life and death. He said, these are the benefits that come when you choose life. These are the benefits. And then these are the curses that come when you won't make a decision and you just choose to continue to settle. He said, this is what happens. This is what happens. So we get to this place in time where now you know. Some of you have been weighing it out. My light went crazy. Let me put a little bit of light over here. Y'all know I'm dark chocolate. Let me put some light on it. Let me put some light on the honey. There we go. There we go. There we go. Some of us are in this place where we already know. We've weighed it out. Diana, we've considered the cost. And now it's just the courage. It's the courage to say, I know if I do this, this is going to lead to this right here. And I know if I stay here, this is going to take me down. Some of us have got to make that choice that I'm going to rise to the occasion. Let me tell you about my son. I'm going to tell you about my son. One of my sons, his name is Vladell. Vladell was, when he was in high school, he ran this thing. You know mama's hold on to everything. He ran this sport called track and field. This is his jersey. This is his little thing. He cut sleeves out. I don't know why they be cutting sleeves out of stuff. But he ran track and field, baby. He ran track and field, right? And Vlad was this patient, long distance runner. It's like some of us, we've been patient, waiting. God, is this my season? Is it time? Should I go left? Should I go right? Should I possess it? Should I go ahead and make the choice today on this Tuesday? Is this what you're saying to me? You've been patiently running your race. And God is like, don't think that patience was in vain. It was teaching you the strides. It was teaching you how to hang in there. It was teaching you how to breathe. The track runners have to learn how to breathe so that they don't pass out. It was teaching you strategy. It was teaching you endurance. So don't you think that the years that you spent going around that circle was in vain. No, baby, it was training season. It was training season. What were you training for? Hang in there with me. I'm going to tell you. So Vladell, let me go back to my baby. Vlad did track and field. And I remember he ran the 4x4. And Vlad ran the last leg in the 4x4. And you know the 4x4 is when you got to go around that track field once with the first lap. And that lap represented for me granddaddy. And then you go around that track field the second time. That second field represented my mom and my daddy. And then you go around that track field the third time. That was my generation. I used to be a track runner, but that's another story for another day. And then Vladell comes into the high school career of his life, and he decides that he too wants to run track. And he's learning endurance, and he's learning patience. And it would be interesting if he decided to let his story stop there. It would be interesting, but it wouldn't make sense. Because what we know is that when you prepare for high school to go through all of that process, whether it's track and field or it's band or it's cheerleading or it's just the academia, you are preparing for the next level. So let me tell you, he prepared for the next level because I told you my baby joined the military. And when he joined the military, he went into the army. You know, I snagged this shirt too. And he went into the army. That's what he's in right now. And when he came home from basic training, I began to see the story of how this right here came together with this right here. You see, he told me about basic training. And he said in basic training, he said, Mom, we had to run sometimes in the woods. We had to run sometimes in the wilderness. We had to run sometimes through muddy terrain. We had to run sometimes in the middle of the night, and when it was 2 and 3 o'clock early in the morning. He said, but Mama, I kept the pace. And I remember my track and field days, how they prepared me for the next level of life. And I kept saying, Vladell, you can get through it. And I believe that he probably heard the cheers, because that I want to put myself in the story. He probably heard the cheers when he was running track. You know, on the first lap, I just would stand by and I would watch him come on around because I knew that it wasn't his time yet. The second lap, I would watch the second runner come on around because I knew my baby, it was coming, but it wasn't his time yet. The third lap, I would watch the next one come around, and that's when I would get up on my feet because I know Vlad was next. Vlad was next, y'all. And the fourth time, my baby would get that baton, and then he would take off. But he didn't take off running fast. Some of you are going to make a decision today, and you're going to take off a little gradual because you're not sure. You're going to take that first step today, and you're not sure if this is the step, but you're going to step out on faith, and I want you to just keep the pace. I want you to keep the pace. I want you to keep running. I want you to keep going. I want you to keep speaking life and scripture saying, God, this is what you told me to do. I've circled this decision long enough, and now it's time for me to walk into it, and I'm walking into it today. But there's something that happened. Each and every one of us have to come to graduation stage. Graduation stage is when you say that was preparation. This is time to walk on in it, baby. This is time for me to put on my gear and say, you know what, I prepared for this. And that's what I want to tell some of you today. You've been preparing your whole life for the decision you're getting ready to walk. You see, I had to stand up. I'm getting a little excited. You're preparing your whole life for the decision that God says if you'll just make it today, you'll see the benefits. You'll see the reward. You begin to see all of those years wondering that it wasn't in vain. God, today is my day. Today is my time. Today is my season, and I'm willing to go and possess the land. The book of Deuteronomy is the book about deciding your future. And the question that I have for you today is decision. Are you going to live? That's the word of the Lord. Are you going to wipe those tears and say no more mourning? It's time for dancing. Are you going to continue to live below your means where you know that you've been working on something better? Or are you going to make the decision, go on and open that business? Go on and get the license. Go on and apply for the LLC. Go on and say, you know what, 9 to 5, I appreciate what you gave me, but transition, graduation level is here. And I know you're saying, economy being where it's at, God. Do you trust God? If you trust God, make a decision. Make a decision. Some of you are in a place on your job where you know you're the next level. You know that you're the next manager in charge. You know that you're the next supervisor. You know that you're the next director. But you've been wondering, well, do I qualify? Do I have enough? Do I really want to make a decision? Change your bank account. Get them coins, baby. Get them coins. Make a decision today. Some of you have been trying to decide now, I prepared all of this stuff for the kids. And when do I get ready to step into my season? When do I was that they lived life and they took care of us. And the decision that you need to make today is you need to decide that you're important too. You need to decide that I can be a mama and I can be a daddy, but I also can be an individual. I am also beautiful and I am also valuable and I am also worthy of experiencing life and getting out the house and going somewhere. I'm going to give some of y'all a little secret. Some of y'all are taking care of the next generation, and those ain't your babies. And I know you like, Tabby, I said it. Those are your grandchildren. They're your great-grandchildren. Those are your daughter or son's kids. Let them get the responsibility of being a parent, and you enjoy the fruit of your labor because you raised them. Baby, you better live your life. I know that it's decision-making time. How will they learn how to be strong and figure out left and right if they don't ever get the practice in a safe environment? And don't let them fall on their face, but baby, you better let them trip up and stumble every now and then so that they learn how to catch themselves and fall into the arms of Jesus and say, God, I've fallen, but with you I can get up. You've got to give them the ability and the option to go through life just like you did, just like I did, and make some decisions. Stop putting yourself last. That's some of the decisions that some of us have got to make today. Y'all, some of y'all have been waiting on love, and you know that this is the person God sent you. You know that this is the man or this is the woman, and God is telling you, boo, you better stop dragging your feet. You take your time, make sure you know the person, make sure they ain't cray-cray. Now, don't get nobody cray-cray. But when God has showed you that they ain't cray-cray, and this is what make a decision, honey. You better go on and grab that person before somebody else does. Today, Deuteronomy reminds us that there was a future and a hope. Let me borrow from Jeremiah for a minute. A future and a hope. Hey there, Gary, that God has in store for each and every one of us. But we've got to decide today. Tomorrow's not promised. The decision you make today can shape your Wednesday. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. Make a decision. That's the word for you today. If you trying to figure out, not the cray-cray, Shonda. We don't need no cray-cray. I done had cray-cray, girl. You got to turn them back in. Receipt and all. Just give it back. Just give it back to the community. But that's the decision. That's the decision, Diana, that we've got to make today. Life. And some of us have been going through the cycles of death. And I'm not talking about physical death. I'm talking about we've been mourning. And low place, and we've been depressed, and we've let the news and all of this stuff that's going on around us discourage us from enjoying life. Can I tell you that there were plagues in Exodus? It wasn't the end of time. I was talking to one of my mothers yesterday, and I said, Mother, you know, one of the things that I wish people would tap into this Bible, all of these false prophets that keep saying we're at the end of time, I wish they would tap into the book of Revelation. Revelation, God himself says no man knows the hour, not even the angels. So how is it that any of us can say, just because a pandemic has hit, that we're at the end of time? That's contrary to Scripture. God gets us through pandemics, just like he got them through plagues, just like he got them through times where he said, you know what, y'all tripping, I'm going to wipe it all out. He didn't clean the whole generation. There was more people that were fruitful and that multiplied and continue even in today to populate the earth. Baby, stop dying. Stop going to the funeral of self day after day after day. Make a decision to live. But when you make that decision, I want you to pull on over to Deuteronomy chapter 6. Because it's in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 and 5. This is where that decision, in the heart of the decision, there has to be this thing in the core, in the center, because that's the only thing that's going to make it worth it. It says, hear God, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. First, we've got to remember when we make that decision that God has got to be the center. God has got to be in the middle of the choice that we make. And then last, then love him. Love him with all your heart. Love him with all your soul. Love him with all your strength. Put all your love in God and say, God, I'm going to make a decision. And I'm trusting you. I'm leaning on you. I'm a little nervous to make it. I know that I've delayed my time in making it. But today is the time for me to decide my future. I hope that that's where you're at today. I encourage you to live a life without regrets, without wondering, dying and wondering, oh, should I have? What could I have been? Where would I have gone if I would have just made a decision? I extend that to you today. Decision-making time is here. Diane, thank you so much, Queen. You put it in the comment. Decision-making time is here. Make a decision. That's it. That's the word. That's the word, baby. So that's our word this week. Next Tuesday, let's flip. God willing, we're going to go into the book of Joshua. That's the next book. Because the book of Joshua, there's a transition that takes place of leadership. Joshua is Moses' replacement. And some of you are getting ready to take the generation that you've lived in to the next level. And I want to give you next week the strategies of how to be successful as a leader that leads in today's time. So I'll see you, Lord willing, next Tuesday, 11:30. Lock it in, set an alarm. Have an amazing rest of the day. I spend my lunch break with you guys on Tuesdays because I love you so much. And I hope the decisions that you make today will be decisions that your children and children's children, your nieces, your nephews, even your parents and grandmama can step back and say, she finally made that decision. He finally made a choice. And they can say, I'm so proud of you. That's what I hope they'll say. I'm so proud of you. I love each and every one of you. Sweet kisses from my heart directly to yours. Enjoy your Tuesday and do what? Make a decision, honey.